The world, 30 million years ago, was not the world we know today. Vast plains stretched from horizon to horizon, dotted with scattered forests and winding rivers. Towering herbivores grazed on endless grasslands, and smaller mammals darted between shrubs, forever wary of predators that lurked nearby. But among these prehistoric creatures, one stood out, an animal so bizarre, so fearsome, that it has been remembered in science with names that sound like curses. The hell pig, the Terminator pig, the nightmare of the plains. Its true name, Entelodon. At first glance, Entelodon looked like a grotesque parody of a pig. Its long legs were made not for plodding in the mud, but for speed. Speed to chase, speed to close the gap between hunter and prey. Its torso was muscular, its chest deep, built to power lungs that could sustain endurance hunts across open terrain. And its head was monstrous, nearly a meter long, with massive jaws capable of snapping bone, studded with sharp, crushing teeth. To stand before an Entelodon was to look into the face of a predator wearing the mask of a pig. But its terror didn't end with appearance. Entelodon's true horror was written in its behavior. While modern pigs forage and wild boars fight in short bursts of rage, Entelodon operated differently. Fossil evidence suggests this beast was not a simple scavenger. It had the power and the speed to actively hunt, and more chilling still, signs point toward an unthinkable truth. Entelodon may have hunted in packs. Picture it. The endless steppe lies quiet under a setting sun. A herd of prehistoric horses grazes nervously, ears flicking, sensing danger in the stillness. Suddenly the silence is broken, not by a roar, but by the thunder of hooves. A group of Entelodons surges forward, their bodies moving in terrifying coordination. They fan out, splitting the herd, isolating the weakest. Their long legs drive them forward, jaws snapping, tusks gleaming. Panic erupts as the prey scatter, but the predators are relentless. This is no random attack. It is strategy. It is teamwork. It is the hunt of a wolf, executed by a creature that looks like a pig. This strange, almost contradictory behavior, pig in form, wolf in spirit, makes Entelodon one of the most fascinating enigmas of prehistory. Was it truly intelligent enough to coordinate hunts, or was it a ruthless opportunist, its behavior shaped by the harsh demands of survival? Did it stalk and terrify its world like a pack of lions, or simply overwhelm weaker animals through brute strength and numbers? One thing is certain, Entelodon ruled its time not merely through size, but through fear. To herbivores, it was the shadow on the horizon, the thunder in the grass, the death that struck in unison. To us, it is a reminder that the past was filled not only with monsters of size, but monsters of behavior, creatures that shattered the boundaries of what we imagine possible. Welcome to Ancient Beast Behavior. This is the story of Entelodon, the monster pig that hunted like a wolf, and the strange, terrifying chapter it wrote in the history of life on Earth. 30 million years ago, the Earth looked nothing like it does today. Dinosaurs had long vanished, leaving behind a world waiting to be claimed. Mammals were rising into forms both familiar and strange, from nimble insect hunters to towering plant eaters that roamed new horizons. This was the Oligocene epoch, a time of shifting climates and evolving landscapes. The air was cooler than the steaming jungles that came before, yet far warmer than the icy ages that still lay ahead. Across Eurasia, wide grasslands began to stretch further and further, creating vast plains that rewarded speed and endurance. Forests that once hid ambush predators gave way to open fields where danger had nowhere to conceal itself. Prey animals had to become watchful runners, while hunters adapted to persistence and cooperation rather than stealth. Survival no longer favored those who struck from the shadows, but those who could chase, tire, and overwhelm. The land itself was dramatic. Endless steppes rolled into distant mountain chains, while rivers carved twisting paths through exposed country. Seasons shifted between harsh droughts and sudden rains, testing every creature that relied on them. To endure here meant constant movement, constant struggle. In this strange world, mammals seemed to experiment with evolution. Some developed towering size as a shield against predators. Others grew horns, tusks, or thick armor to defend themselves. Many were hybrids of traits we would not recognize today, creatures that seemed pulled from dreams rather than Earth's history. Among the predators, giants like Hyaenodon and Amphicyon dominated with bone-crushing jaws and raw power. Yet one beast stood apart from them all, not for size alone, but for its behavior. It looked like a pig, but its spirit was that of something else entirely. This was Entelodon, the hell pig, the wolf of the plains, a nightmare dressed in the body of a boar. The first time paleontologists uncovered the skull of Entelodon, they were stunned. Nearly a meter long, it looked grotesque, with a gaping jaw lined with sharp teeth and massive bony ridges that flared like armor. This was no gentle grazer. It was a predator hiding in the form of a pig. At a distance, Entelodon's body might have fooled the eye. Long legs carried it high off the ground, giving it the stance of a runner, not the squat frame of modern boars. Its chest was deep, its body muscular, built for stamina across the open plains. It was an animal designed not to root or wallow, but to move and dominate. Scientists gave it nicknames that sounded more like warnings than labels. Hell Pig, Terminator Pig, Killer Pig. These names echoed the horror its fossilized skull inspired, a face stretched long and terrifying, unlike anything that walks the earth today. And yet, for all its pig-like appearance, Entelodon was no true pig. Its lineage runs closer to hippos and whales than to the pigs we know today. Evolution had shaped it into something unique, an apex beast whose form only hinted at the brutality of its nature. Entelodon's jaws could crush bone as easily as flesh. Its teeth revealed a diet both flexible and violent, capable of cracking open carcasses or tearing into fresh prey. In its skull, in its legs, in the sheer size of its frame, was written a story of power and predation. To meet an Entelodon on the plains was to encounter an animal that blurred the line between scavenger and hunter, pig and wolf. It was a creature born for dominance and for the herds that shared its world. It was a nightmare that could appear at any moment. Every part of Entelodon's body was built for intimidation. Its head was grotesquely oversized, stretching forward like a weapon forged from bone. The jaw hinged wide, lined with teeth that could shear through flesh and grind down bone to reach the marrow inside. The skull itself bore massive ridges and flared cheekbones, places where thick muscles anchored. These gave its bite incredible force, turning each snap of its jaws into a lethal strike. Even the shape of its face projected menace, long and narrow, ending in a snout that seemed made for destruction. Its body was not clumsy, but surprisingly athletic. Long, slender legs held its bulk high above the ground, giving it speed across open plains. This was no lumbering brute. It could run and it could chase, turning the flat steppe into its hunting ground. The chest was deep, suggesting powerful lungs and the stamina for endurance. Entelodon could likely pursue prey over distance, much like wolves or hyenas do today. For animals caught in its path, outrunning the beast was not always an option. Size only amplified its threat. Some individuals may have weighed over half a ton, towering above many of the mammals it hunted. Facing such a predator meant facing not only strength, but the crushing inevitability of overwhelming mass. Everything about Entelodon told a story of fear. To see one was to know you were prey, and to see several together was to realize there would be no escape. It was an animal designed to dominate through both power and terror. For many years, Entelodon was imagined as a solitary terror, one beast stalking the plains alone. But evidence began to suggest something even more unsettling. Fossil trackways hinted at groups moving together, step by step across the same ground. If these creatures traveled in numbers, their power multiplied. One Entelodon was terrifying, but several working together would have been unstoppable. They could fan out across the grasslands, surrounding herds and cutting off escape routes. The open plains favored teamwork. With little cover for ambush, predators had to adapt to persistence and strategy. Entelodon's long legs and stamina made it ideal for endurance hunts, and cooperation would have turned it into a nightmare beyond comparison. Picture a herd of prehistoric horses grazing under the sun. Suddenly, a line of Entelodons emerges from the horizon. They spread like shadows, pushing the herd into panic. The weakest stumble, the slowest fall behind, and the pack closes in. This wolf-like behavior is shocking when paired with a body that resembled a pig. It challenges our expectations of how animals should act, reminding us that evolution often blurs the rules. In the struggle for survival, appearance meant little. Strategy meant everything. Whether or not every Entelodon hunted this way remains a mystery, but the possibility alone is enough to chill the imagination. On the ancient plains, death may not have come from one beast, but from many united in pursuit. Entelodon's teeth were like a window into its violent lifestyle. They were not the flat molars of a grazer, nor the delicate fangs of a specialist predator. Instead, they were built for versatility, sharp enough to slice meat, strong enough to crush bone. This anatomy meant Entelodon could eat almost anything. Carcasses left behind by other predators were torn apart, bones cracked open for the rich marrow inside. Eggs, small animals, and even plants may have added to its diet when opportunities arose. But the beast was not only a scavenger. With its speed and endurance, it could chase down prey on its own. Fossil evidence of bite marks suggests it actively attacked live animals, tearing through flesh with brutal efficiency. Its eating style was ruthless. Where a lion targets the throat, Entelodon may have bitten into flanks or limbs, causing shock and blood loss before dragging its victim down. Once the kill was made, nothing was wasted. Flesh, bone, and even sinew were consumed. This combination of scavenger and hunter made it unpredictable. Sometimes it lurked like a hyena, waiting for others to kill first. Other times it became the executioner, using speed and power to bring down its own quarry. Such adaptability ensured its survival for millions of years. On the plains of the Oligocene, food was never guaranteed. To endure, Entelodon had to be both opportunist and predator, shifting roles whenever the moment demanded. Entelodon was not alone in its world. The Oligocene plains swarmed with predators, each shaped by evolution into terrifying hunters. Among them were Hyaenodon, with skulls so massive their bite could crush through anything, and Amphicyon, the so-called bear dog, a beast with the strength of a bear and the agility of a wolf. These rivals stalked the same hunting grounds. At watering holes where prey gathered in desperation, clashes were inevitable. Fossils show bite marks and broken bones, silent testimony to the violence of those confrontations. Entelodon had its advantages: speed, endurance, and numbers when traveling in packs. Hyaenodon had raw jaw strength, while Amphicyon relied on brute force and ambush. The balance of power shifted constantly, depending on who struck first and how many joined the fight. Imagine the chaos on the steppe. A herd of rhinoceros-like mammals scatters as predators converge from different directions. Entelodon closes in with coordination, while a lone Amphicyon lunges from cover. In the confusion, rivals may fight each other as fiercely as they fight their prey. Survival favored the bold. Sometimes Entelodon drove competitors from a carcass with sheer intimidation. Other times it yielded ground to stronger foes, circling back only after the battle ended. In this brutal theater, dominance was always temporary. The plains belonged to no single ruler. Instead, they were shaped by constant rivalry, a balance of terror where even predators lived in fear of one another. For Entelodon, this meant every hunt was a gamble: victory or death, feast or starvation. The plains where Entelodon roamed were filled with potential prey. Herds of small prehistoric horses grazed in the open, their slender bodies built for speed, but not for endurance. Rhinoceros-like mammals browsed on shrubs, massive in size, yet vulnerable when isolated from the herd. These animals lived in constant fear. With little cover across the grasslands, danger could be seen from far away, but that distance offered no safety. Entelodon's long legs could close the gap, and its persistence meant the chase often ended with blood. For the horses, survival depended on staying together. They moved as one, wheeling and turning in unison to confuse predators. But a pack of Entelodons could split them apart, singling out the weakest until escape became impossible. Even larger herbivores, creatures weighing several tons, were not immune. A lone rhinoceros relative, cut off from its group, could be surrounded and harassed until exhaustion forced it to collapse. Once it fell, the predators descended, their tusks and teeth tearing it apart. The methods of survival were simple but desperate. Prey animals relied on speed, vigilance, and sheer numbers. Many never lived long enough to grow old. On the ancient plains, every day was a battle between teeth and hooves, and Entelodon was always waiting for the chance to strike. For millions of years, Entelodon reigned as one of the most feared predators of the Oligocene world. Its combination of speed, power, and adaptability gave it an edge over rivals and ensured its survival through changing seasons. On the open steppe, it seemed invincible, but no dominance lasts forever. Climate shifts began to reshape the land, altering the delicate balance that had favored Entelodon. Grasslands expanded, forests thinned, and prey populations changed in both size and behavior. New predators emerged, rivals more specialized and efficient. Large cats and dog-like hunters evolved with sharper teeth and faster reflexes. Amphicyon grew stronger, and eventually entire predator lineages rose to challenge the supremacy of the hell pig. Entelodon's bulk, once a symbol of power, became a burden in this shifting world. The speed of its competitors, paired with their more refined hunting skills, slowly outmatched its versatility. The strategies that once brought it dominance now fell short. In time, Entelodon disappeared from the fossil record. No great catastrophe marks its end, only the steady erosion of its advantage. Evolution moved forward, and the wolf pig of the plains was left behind. Its fall was not sudden, but it was final. The monster that once terrified herds and rivals alike faded into extinction, leaving only bones buried in stone. Yet those bones still tell the story of a reign both brutal and strange, a chapter in evolution that ended as quietly as it began. Though Entelodon vanished millions of years ago, its presence shaped the world it left behind. For prey animals, the constant pressure of such a predator forced sharper instincts, quicker reflexes, and tighter herd behavior. Fear became a tool of evolution, carving survival into their very bones. Other predators, too, felt its impact. Entelodon's dominance kept rivals in check, forcing them to adapt or perish. In this way, it acted as both killer and sculptor, molding the balance of ecosystems through raw competition. Even in extinction, its story lingers. Fossils reveal not only an animal but an atmosphere of terror, a reminder that power alone does not guarantee survival. The wolf pig reigned through fear, and fear remains its truest legacy. To us, Entelodon is a symbol of evolution's creativity and cruelty. It reminds us that nature experiments without mercy, combining forms and behaviors that defy expectation. What looked like a pig became something closer to a nightmare, and in doing so, it changed the course of life around it. The echoes of Entelodon still resound in modern species. The persistence of pack hunting, the endurance strategies of wolves and wild dogs, the opportunism of hyenas, all reflect patterns that once belonged to the hell pig. In this way, its influence never truly died. At first sight, Entelodon looked like an oversized pig, a familiar shape hidden beneath its monstrous proportions. But appearances deceive, and this was no barnyard animal. Beneath the pig-like snout lurked a predator with instincts closer to wolves and hyenas. Its body told one story, while its behavior told another. The long legs, the powerful chest, the endurance, these belonged to a hunter, not a forager. Entelodon blurred categories. leaving scientists struggling to place it neatly on the tree of life. This disguise was part of its power. Herbivores expecting a lumbering grazer instead faced a swift and cunning killer. Rivals who underestimated its speed often learned too late that the wolf hid inside the pig. Such contradictions fascinate us today. They remind us that nature cares little for our labels. Evolution shapes creatures not to fit ideas, but to survive, no matter how strange the result may appear. Entelodon's story is proof that monsters need not look monstrous. Sometimes the most terrifying predator wears the mask of something ordinary, waiting to reveal its true face only in the moment of the hunt. The sun sinks low over the ancient steppe, painting the horizon in shades of red and gold. A herd of small horses grazes nervously, their ears flicking, their bodies tense. The open plain offers no cover, yet unease lingers in the air. From the distance comes a low thunder, at first mistaken for weather, but the ground trembles harder, and shapes emerge from the heat haze. A line of Entelodons strides forward, their long legs pounding the earth in unison. The herd erupts in panic. Dust clouds rise as hooves strike the ground, the horses fleeing in a desperate wave. Yet the predators do not scatter. They spread wide, curving to flank their prey, forcing them into chaos. One horse stumbles, cut off from the group. In moments, the pack closes in, tusks flashing, jaws snapping. The cries of the dying animal echo across the plain, drowned only by the rumble of pursuit. When the struggle ends, silence follows. The pack tears into its kill, bone and flesh vanishing under crushing jaws. Around them, the survivors flee far into the steppe, carrying fear that will live in the herd for generations. This is how Entelodon ruled, not just with teeth and strength, but with strategy and terror. On the Oligocene plains, every sunset could end in blood, and every shadow might hide the pig that hunted like a wolf. Long after its extinction, Entelodon has found new life in human imagination. Documentaries and museum exhibits bring its skull to the public, each jagged tooth and flared bone stirring the same awe and dread that paleontologists felt when it was first unearthed. Visitors stand before its fossil, picturing the monster that once thundered across the plains. In popular media, it has been cast as a nightmare predator, sometimes exaggerated beyond reality. Films and games portray it as larger, fiercer, and more bloodthirsty than the fossils suggest. Audiences are captivated not by its scientific accuracy, but by the sheer terror of a pig that hunts like a wolf. Artists have also embraced its paradoxical image. Paintings show it charging across golden grasslands, jaws wide in a bone-crushing bite. Digital recreations animate it into battle scenes, chasing prey or clashing with rivals, reviving a creature that vanished millions of years ago. Why does it hold our fascination? Perhaps because Entelodon embodies both the familiar and the alien. It looks like an animal we think we know, yet twisted into something monstrous. That tension between recognition and horror makes it irresistible to storytellers and audiences alike. Through culture, Entelodon has become more than just a fossil. It is a symbol of primal fear, a reminder that evolution has produced beasts stranger than myth, and that sometimes reality surpasses imagination. Fossils give us the bones of Entelodon, but bones alone cannot tell the full story. What we know of its behavior comes from fragments, skulls, teeth, footprints, and the rest is pieced together by comparison and imagination. This leaves as many questions as answers. Some scientists argue Entelodon was primarily a scavenger, roaming vast distances to strip carcasses clean. Others believe it was a true predator, running down prey with stamina and coordinated strategy. The evidence points in both directions, fueling debate that may never be fully resolved. The idea of pack hunting remains especially controversial. Trackways suggest group movement, but whether that meant cooperation or coincidence is uncertain. Did Entelodons truly hunt together, or did they simply travel as individuals drawn to the same resources? Even its lineage raises mysteries. Despite looking like a pig, Entelodon belongs closer to the ancestors of hippos and whales. This strange connection challenges our sense of how form relates to function, reminding us that appearances can be deceptive. Every fossil discovered adds a fragment to the puzzle, yet the creature remains partly hidden in shadow. Entelodon's true behavior, its intelligence, even the exact sound of its call, are lost to time. All we can do is reconstruct its world from silent bones and imagine the terror it once inspired. The story of Entelodon is more than a tale of a monster long extinct. It is a reminder of how evolution experiments, producing forms and behaviors that defy expectation. What looked like a pig could hunt like a wolf, blurring the line between the ordinary and the terrifying. Its rise shows the power of adaptability. By combining scavenging and hunting, by shifting between roles, Entelodon thrived in a harsh and changing world. Yet its fall reveals the limits of dominance. No creature, however fearsome, escapes the pressure of time and competition. For us, Entelodon stands as a symbol of nature's unpredictability. Survival is not about strength alone, but about change, strategy, and opportunity. Those that adapt endure, those that cannot vanish into history. Even today, echoes of its behavior live on. Wolves hunt in packs, hyenas scavenge and kill. Wild boars thrive as opportunists. In each, we glimpse a shadow of the wolf pig that once ruled the plains. Entelodon may be gone, but its lesson remains. Evolution never stands still, and the monsters of the past remind us that the future may hold creatures just as strange, just as unexpected. The only certainty is that survival belongs to those who can change,